everyone. Thank you for tuning in and welcome back to my YouTube channel. When I need to take a break from my knitting or my crochet, I usually watch some tutorials, and I've been watching a lot of crochet tutorials, learning new stitches, looking at patterns, and something that drives me absolutely crazy is people that combine yarn over and yarn under. And I'm going to demonstrate that on this video. So I just want you to be aware, because I don't think people realize they're doing it. The correct way is to yarn over in every stitch. So if you're doing a double crochet, you yarn over, go into the stitch, yarn over, come back through, yarn over, pull through two, yarn over, pull through two. People are mixing it up, and sometimes they're doing a yarn under and sometimes a yarn over. This is going to change the way your stitches look. It will change your gauge. It will change the height of your stitches. And in some instances, depending on if you're doing that in a single crochet, it's really going to change the width of your gauge swatch. So you may not even realize you're doing it. I've watched a lot of videos and saw people doing it, and I looked at the comments to see if I was the only one that noticed or if anybody else said anything. And I would scroll down quite a few comments and found that nobody noticed. So I think people don't realize that they're doing it, but it is really important. If you're doing a project, if you want to get your gauge correctly and you want your stitches to look right, that you're always doing a yarn over. Now, from what I have been told, I do not do amigurumi. It's on the list to learn. But some people apparently do yarn unders in that specific type of crochet, because it does give a really super tight gauge. So in amigurumi, since you're making, little figures or animals or people or whatever, you want that to be really tight so you can't see the stuffing in between the stitches. So that I get. If it's something that you're conscious of and you're intentionally doing it because you're trying to achieve a tighter stitch, or you need to do that for a specific project, that's fine. You can do it however you like. I just want you to be aware that I want you to be aware of whether you're doing a yarn under or yarn over, because they are both different and they have different effects in your crochet. Without further ado, here we go. Hey everyone, I wanted to do a quick video about a yarn over versus a yarn under. I've watched a ton of crochet videos and I see so many people doing this, and it really will affect how tight your stitches are, and there really is a proper way to crochet. I was watching the video for someone making this blanket, this baby blanket, and I'm going to zoom in here so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to show you the right way, and then I'm going to show you the wrong way. So I'm going to do a single crochet. So ordinarily you go into the stitch, I yarn over, and the reason why it's an over, even though it looks like the hook's going underneath, it's because the yarn is going over the hook. So you reach in, this is how I crochet, pull up a loop, and once again you come this way and pull through. Okay, I'm going to show you the correct way to do a double crochet. Yarn over, that's a yarn over, go into the stitch, yarn over again. We're not going backwards this way. Yarning over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through two, and yarn over, pull through two. Do that again. Yarn over, into the stitch, yarn over again, pull through, yarn over, pull through two, yarn over, pull through two. Here's what I see people doing and what I saw on this particular video. And this is really will make your stitches tight. See how nice and loose these stitches are? And this will definitely affect this stitch. Going in here, and this is even hard for me to do. Okay, instead of coming under or yarning over, just grabbing the yarn this way. See, you don't have a lot of yarn. This uses more yarn, but it's going to make your stitch nice and loose, and you're going to have incorrect gauge if you don't do this the right way. She was coming under here, pulling through here, pulling through there, which is going to make a lot tighter of a stitch. Then on the double crochet, she was going yarn over, going into the stitch, then going, which this is really difficult to do, even than pulling that way, see? So instead of going this way, she was just grabbing the yarn like that, pulling it through. Then she was yarning over again and yarning over. So she was totally mixing up the 2 stitches. She was doing a yarn over, a yarn under, and then 2 yarn overs. And that's not the correct way to crochet. You can do it that way, but your stitches will not match the gauge and they will be really, really tight. I did a couple of samples. I'm going to put a link in the description below. There's another article where another designer goes into it a lot more in depth than I did. This is the correct way, using a yarn over, where I think I did 3 rows of single crochet, 2 rows of double crochet. It's nice and loose. You know, it doesn't really curl up a lot. This one is super tight, really curly, and you're not going to get the same height. So if you mix up your stitches when you're doing your double crochets, you're not going to get near the height that you're going to get with the correct way to do it. This is mixing them up. Now, if you did them all yarn unders, it would be a lot smaller. This is not a huge difference, but it is a difference. If you feel of this, this just seems nice and even and loose, and this just seems really tight. And all the single crochets were yarn unders, and they're really tight. Now, from what I understand, a lot of times when people make the little animals, the amigurumis, they do yarn unders because they want those tight. But if you're just doing a blanket or a scarf or a hat, it's going to make your project extremely small and extremely tight. And it'll make your stitches, instead of being a little more straight, they're all going to lean one direction because of the way that you are pulling your yarn through. So instead of getting a nice upward crochet, double crochet, you're going to get one that leans over to the right. So there is a correct way to crochet, and the correct way is to yarn over, which I know seems like a yarn under. The hook's not going, it's not a yarn over because the hook is going over the yarn. It's a yarn over because the yarn is going over the hook. Okay, so yarn over the hook. This way the yarn is underneath the hook. So if I go into this stitch, now my yarn is under my hook. And there's just not a lot, you know, there's not a lot there, which is going to make the stitch really tight. Whereas if you come yarn over, then you can pull up a loop and have some nice loose tension in here, and it won't be super tight. So just pay attention. And this is really easy for me. You know, I can go super fast, right, when I'm crocheting. And if I try to do a yarn under, it's also going to mess up your wrist, because now instead of just doing a natural motion, and I would imagine that this is, I bet that this incorrect technique is mostly done by people that hold it like I do, a knife hold, because if you were to do a pencil hold, this is going to really mess up your wrist trying to do it this way, as opposed to, you know, just a regular yarn over. It's just harder. I don't know why anybody would do that. And I see people doing that with a half double crochet. So let's say we're going to do a half double crochet. We do a yarn over, the yarn is over the hook. We go into the stitch, and then instead of doing the yarn over again and pulling through, they're going yarn under and then pulling through all 3 stitches for a half double crochet. And that is not correct. So pay attention to whether you're doing a yarn over or yarn under. I suspect that a lot of people may not even realize they're doing it, that they're mixing up the yarn over and the yarn under. So stick with a yarn over if you're doing your half double crochets. If you're doing single crochet, double crochet, or half double, you should be doing a yarn over, or else you're going to get a really, really tight stitch if you're trying to do that. And that's, to me, that's a lot more work. This is just, comes really naturally to me. And it's probably likely going to hurt your wrist. So if you're having wrist problems and you realize that you're doing a yarn under instead of a yarn over, that may be part of your wrist pain problems. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful. I'll put another link to another video regarding this discrepancy in the description below. She does a lot more in-depth video and goes into Tunisian crochet, and also writes an extensive article on her blog. So I'll put that in the description below. Thanks for watching.